I'm proposing to you, Professor Treston, in 1990 that cause is irrelevant.
No, the cause is not irrelevant.
You're living on Hawaiian land, Mr. Reese. What are you paying us for it? Nothing. Haoles are living on Hawaiian land. The military is squatting on Hawaiian land. The kind of government that we have is ruining Hawaiian language. That is not irrelevant.
And not only
you need to understand is that, as Malcolm X pointed out, anger against white people is righteous anger.
Right.
Well,
it is
Malcolm
not
X believed
racism.
that, I know, but
it's not racism, and so do I, and so do many other people of color.
And not only that, I think, but you've got to look at the circumstances. What Haunani said in her original letter is absolutely true.
That we'd be better off with one less Haole.
No, let me tell you what I'm saying. That all white people living in Hawaii benefit from that historical circumstance now, and that Hawaiians are still being denigrated because of it. And the
is that true of Japanese living here?
Well, the Japanese have a very different economic situation.
But I mean, are the Japanese living here are the beneficiaries of land stolen from the Hawaiians? Are they not?
Yes, they're beneficiaries of land stolen, but they did not.
Less Japanese?
No, let me answer your question, Bob, because like so many white people, again, you refuse to look at your own history as being a white person. Japanese people were brought here as laborers. We are not speaking the Japanese language. We are speaking the Haole language. And why is that? Because your ancestors said that we cannot speak Hawaiian. Now, if you don't want to acknowledge that as racism, that's a problem I suggest you get over. But I acknowledge that as racism. I certainly do
acknowledge that as racism.
Fine. Then do you expect people to say, oh, thank you so much for banning my language? You don't think people have a right to resent bad treatment? You don't think they have a right to resent foreigners in their land?
Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to talk about something that rarely gets mentioned in the mainstream history book. The throwback of Hawaii Kingdom, and the spoiler alert, it wasn't some peaceful transition. It was imperialism planned and simple. When people think of Hawaii, they usually think of beaches, vacations, and pineapples. But the truth is, Hawaii was once a fully independent kingdom with its own monarchy, culture, and political system. That independence was violently taken away in the late 19th century when American businessmen and military forces overthrew their pen to benefit U.S. corporate interests.
I can't believe some of you genuinely think Hawaii is part of the U.S.
Huh?
Telling me an island in the middle of the ocean is part of the United States?
Okay, so even though Hawaii is an island in the middle of the ocean, it is absolutely a part of the United States. Alaska also is not attached to the lower 48, but it's still a state. As a matter of fact, it was made a state August 21st, 1959. Don't you guys have like a big party on July 7th to celebrate your state day or something like that? This is the state flag of Hawaii, because it's a state. But yes, there are 50 states: Alabama, Alaska, Arizona, Arkansas, California, Colorado, Connecticut, Delaware, Florida, Hawaii, Idaho, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maine, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, Minnesota, Mississippi, Missouri, Montana, Nebraska, Nevada, New Hampshire, New Jersey, New Mexico, New York, North Carolina, North Dakota, Ohio, Oklahoma, Oregon, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, South Carolina, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, Utah, Vermont, Virginia, Washington, West Virginia, Wisconsin, Wyoming. 50. Hawaii is number 50. See, 50. United States has 50 states. Hawaii is a state. Hawaii is definitely a state of the United States.
Hawaii wasn't discovered, it was stolen. And everything you think you know about how it became part of the United States is a lie dressed up in leis and tourism brochures. Let's start with the fact that Hawaii was a sovereign nation. It had a constitution, international treaties, and recognition from world powers. By the mid-1800s, the Hawaii Kingdom had embassies in London and Paris. It wasn't just some remote island. It was a global player with its own monarchy and its own government. Then American business interests showed up. White sugar barons, mostly descendants of missionaries. They came for the land and they didn't want to play by Hawaii's rules. So what did they do? They staged a coup with help from the U.S. Marines. In 1983, Queen Leleokalani was overthrown. She was trying to restore power to Native Hawaiians after years of political manipulation. So white settlers, backed by the U.S. military, forced her to surrender at gunpoint, and then had the nerve to call themselves a provisional government. It wasn't provisional, it was a takeover. And she didn't go quietly. Leleokalani wrote petitions, made speeches, and begged U.S. leadership to intervene and undo the coup. Over 38,000 Native Hawaiians signed in protest. But America didn't care, because by then the sugar was flowing, and soon, Pearl Harbor became a military asset. In 1898, the U.S. illegally annexed Hawaii through a joint resolution, not a treaty, which it actually needed under international law. That annexation was never agreed to by the Hawaiian people. They were occupied, plain and simple, and what followed was decades of cultural suppression. The Hawaiian language was banned in schools. Sacred lands were seized. Children were punished for speaking the language of their ancestors. A nation was turned into a theme park. And now, Hawaii is marketed as a paradise. But Native Hawaiians are being priced off their own land, watching million-dollar condos go up on stolen beaches. And the same government that occupied their kingdom still hasn't admitted it was wrong. So no, Hawaii wasn't added to the U.S. It was taken. At gunpoint. Its queen was imprisoned. Its language was criminalized. Its people were silenced. And the only reason most Americans don't know that is because the truth doesn't sell hotel rooms.
The United States government believes that Hawaii legally belongs to them. Delusional. Let's go back to the beginning. In the 1820s, after a couple decades of sending missionaries to scan their greedy eyes over the islands, the United States decided that Hawaii had fertile land and a thriving population with a deep understanding of this Aina. This led the United States to do what the United States does best, getting FOMO from not understanding the relationship to resources, inviting themselves to participation, creating exclusionary rules, and then monopolizing the space. These missionaries began opening businesses and claiming land, seeing the space as a business venture. And after about 70 years of profiting off of not their land, they had rewritten a constitution, labeled themselves as the provisional, referred to Hawaii as, quote, a fully ripe pear and its golden hour for the U.S. to pluck it. By the time the late 1800s came around, the United States had a feral need to take what wasn't theirs, launched a massive narrative war, crying wolf to U.S. citizens that there was a war in Hawaii, so that the U.S. would willingly send troops in support. After essentially creating this alibi for the violence they were about to inflict, the U.S. launched their invasion of Hawaii and overthrew the Hawaiian Kingdom on January 17, 1893. Her Majesty Queen Liliuokalani yielded her authority to avoid bloodshed, trusting that the United States would recognize the illegality of the actions taken by the provisional government and restore her to power. Her Majesty wrote to President Grover Cleveland, appealing for assistance in restoring her rightful place to the throne and for the United States to stay out of Hawaiian business. I, Liliuokalani, by the grace of God and under the Constitution of the Hawaiian Kingdom, Queen, do hereby solemnly protest against any and all acts done against myself and the constitutional government of the Hawaiian Kingdom by certain persons claiming to have established a provisional government of and for this kingdom. That I yield to the superior force of the United States of America, whose Minister Plenipotentiary, His Excellency John L. Stevens, has caused United States troops to be landed at Honolulu and declared that he would support the said provisional government. Now, to avoid any collision of armed forces and perhaps the loss of life, I do, under this protest and impelled by said forces, yield my authority until such time as the government of the United States shall, upon the facts being presented to it, undo the action of its representative and reinstate me in the authority which I claim as the constitutional sovereign of the Hawaiian Islands. Done at Honolulu this 17th day of January, AD 1893. Surprisingly, Cleveland used his presidential brain cell of the month and paused the annexation attempt and condemned the overthrow. He sent U.S. Special Commissioner James Blount to conduct an investigation on the overthrow, and the results of the Blount report concluded that the overthrow had been illegal and that the U.S. Minister to Hawaii, John L. Stevens, remember him, had acted improperly by supporting the coup with the landing of U.S. Marines. Sounds good, right? No. Lauren Thurston and Sanford Dole, who were the descendants of the first missionaries to Hawaii, refused to accept this. They said, okay, while national governments are negotiating, let's just lie to get our way. And unfortunately, following a failed counter-revolutionary attempt by her supporters to restore the monarchy, Queen Liliuokalani was arrested, tried by a military tribunal, imprisoned in the Iolani Palace, her home, for nearly 8 months. She was then placed under house arrest at her residence, Washington Palace, for a further 5 months. She was sealed off from any outside communication, any visitors, and under complete control of the United States. This was their version of graciousness, because you see, they originally sentenced her to 5 years in prison under their own made-up legal system. This is like me walking into your hale and using my own house rules while putting you in timeout. After the overthrow of the Hawaiian kingdom, they forced Americanization through public schools and banned the teaching and speaking of Olelo Hawaii and created a public school board who ultimately believed, quote, if we are ever to have peace and annexation, the first thing to do is obliterate the past. This went on for generations, from the late 1800s to the late 1950s. My great-great-grandparents and their children, their children's children, and so forth weren't allowed to speak Olelo Hawaii and weren't allowed to pass it down to our family. I am the first and only member of my family that is relearning our mother tongue because I couldn't learn it from my family. Because of these internal and external pressures, Hawaii was officially annexed in 1898. And despite over 21,000 signatures in the Ku'e petitions from citizens across Kapai'aina Hawaii, including my great-great-grandparents, Hawaii still became a U.S. territory. Funnily enough, though, this is what we mean by illegal occupation. This was done by a joint resolution of the U.S. House and Senate. And joint resolutions are only domestic. They cannot be applied internationally. So even now, the United States has no actual legal authority over the Kingdom of Hawaii. Even the United Nations recognizes the U.S.'s strange occupation in Hawaii over the last 150 years. But as we've been taught, Hawaii ultimately became a U.S. state in 1959 after decades of dehumanization and militarizations. Hawaiians signed a referendum that proclaimed Hawaii as a state. And the rest, I guess, is history. In this moment where everyone is taking a moment to understand what occupation and oppression means, let this just be a reminder to question all occupations. But yeah, sure, your tourism totally doesn't contribute to a deep-rooted issue still affecting Native communities to this day. Selfish, greedy motherfucker.
Thank you for watching, and if you find this video informative, hit that like button, share this with someone who needs to hear it, and don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into history. God bless you. Bye.